Well, thank you for having us. And my name's Andrew Schiffman. I'll be moderating this amazing panel called "Will We All Become Creators?" So, before I get into the basis of the topic that we're going to discuss, little background on me. I've been in the music space for over 20 years, primarily programming strategy and artist relations. I spent most of my career at MTV in New York in the music and talent team. Most recently, I was at Rally, which is a creator economy network that launches digital economies for creators, social coins as well as NFTs. Up until this week, I am the VP of business development at Yellowheart, which is an NFT ticketing and marketplace platform. So that's me. And Jason, you want to just intro yourself and we'll go down the line?
Sure. My name is Jason Brink. A lot of people in the space know me as Bitbender. I've been in the blockchain space since 2012, 2013. Really got into it heavily in 2014 when I began looking at ways to use blockchain to fix some of the problems endemic to foreign aid. After spending a few years working on that, realizing that governments and NGOs will never move quickly enough, I moved into play to earn gaming with Gala Games, and we strive to, in the spirit of treating game developers as creators, we strive to give freedom to them and to, unlock their full creative potential and sort of break free of the old school gaming mentality in which nobody owns their stuff and it's all sort of in the hands of the big publishers. So that's what we're working on countering, and that's what we do at Gala Games.
Nice. 16?
Yeah, so I'm a beginner. I'm a baby in the metaverse and in the digital world, although I did know about digital art, of course, that's nothing new. My background is art history. I've worked in galleries as well as for governments. I've worked for indigenous projects in Australia. And just recently, and that's how I met the WISeKey team, is I wrote an MBA program for Geneva Business School, which is a private university in Geneva, on art management, so the business side of the arts industry. Fine art, I'd like to specify. So, I mean, I have worked with dance and music as well, but my specialty is fine art. And then I joined Wise.art in September. The idea being that WISeKey is a cybersecurity company. The owner or the founder was part of the WWW team in CERN here in Geneva 20 years ago. And he's got this cyber company called WISeKey, and they've secured the UN, the Vatican, Gibraltar, loads of, like, they work with governments. We've just launched 2 satellites last week into space. So that's their part of the thing. And they started this Wise.art NFT platform. And I suppose the difference we have with the major platforms that are now currently on, available to people are that we are secure. Well, we think we're secured. We have a vetting committee. We have a know your client policy as well. So, hopefully it'll be a little bit perhaps more tedious to use, but at the end of the day, more efficient, perhaps.
Great. Yeah. And Edmond, you are on mute, my friend.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
I'm
trying to be quiet here. My name is Edmond Allmond. I started in the music space at a very young age as a soloist classically, and then got into jazz and studio stuff in my late teens. But also in my late teens, I got into IP protection. And so that's been one of my parallel career paths for all my life. Worked for Sony Pictures in film as a composer. Worked for Motown Records in the marketing division, and did some work for Capitol and Rhino and a lot of other entities. Got involved in the blockchain space really early on, 2011, 2012. And it was really through the folks that had founded Ethereum. And then that's branched out into other things. I've looked for opportunities to apply technology that comes from that to IP protection, which brought me to Eureka. And what we do is similar. We're in similar spaces where we're looking to protect those who have created and will create and are creating. And that spans a number of items. So there are a lot of things to talk about in terms of our platform and the products that we've developed and some of the patents that we've gone after. And that's pretty much me. All my social stuff. Before I came into this, I was with UC Berkeley as a communications head for the Food Institute. So there are a lot of social causes that I've been involved in, but mainly housing and food. And so that's another item that I keep in my parallel wallet, so to speak. That's me.
Excellent. We have a very diverse group, so this is going to be a great conversation. So a little bit of, background on the discussion at hand, with the arrival of digital social platforms like YouTube and TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, which is almost 20 years now, the ability of user-generated content to reach millions has become available to everyone, right? So at first, the creative spirit was to express primarily for social capital. While these platforms have become enormously profitable, those generating content had no direct means to generate revenue. So we feel that has now changed with the birth of influencer branding and the creation of blockchain ecosystems. Digital creators can now have a direct channel to sell their creations as well as interact with their audience. So will this unleash an unparalleled creative era? So one of my first questions that I hear a lot, I spend a lot of time in, Twitter spaces and clubhouses, how do we transition and educate Web 2 fans, which are basically everyone creating this content or the fans that like the content, into a Web 3 community? So Jason, you want to give your thoughts on how we transition?
Sure. So one of the things that I think is really important to recognize in this Web3 space is that community as a whole and the collective action of community is far more important than it has ever been in any other industry prior to this point in time. At Gala Games, this is something that we have focused a tremendous amount of our time and effort on, because we recognize that at the end of the day, none of this matters without the community at large. You can come up with the best tech solutions in the world, you can have the smoothest onboarding process, you can have the best games, but if no one is excited and wants to play or wants to get involved, there's no point. And so I would say that for Web 2 creators and Web 2 communities, the important thing is initially is to recognize that there are tools that exist out there that allow for the building of these communities, and that your secret weapon, and this is absolutely 100% true in our case, your secret weapon is being open and honest and communicative with these communities. People in the Web 2 space are very used to, going to a website, clicking on the website, looking at stuff, and never engaging with anybody. However, Web 3 is all about interconnectivity and engagement. And so, if you drop into our Discord, which, shameless self-plug, you can join at galagames.chat, you can drop in, and immediately you will have an opportunity to interface with the team as a whole. You can talk to the executives, you can talk to our developers, you can talk to our moderators. We've got over 100 employees that are active in the Discord at any given time. And this is tremendously powerful, because then if somebody needs help or if somebody has a question, and to be completely fair, the Web3 space, especially with a lot of the high friction onboarding and things like that takes place right now, can be challenging. You have, mnemonics, and you have, the need to set up wallets and do all of these weird things that you're not used to. Just having somebody there to help walk you through the process is profoundly powerful. And so we see that our role is to facilitate and curate and grow this community so that the people within that community can help one another, and to provide them tools and the context with which to do that. And so I think that's the biggest thing for people transitioning from Web 2 to Web 3, personally.
Yeah. I mean, we are providing interaction between the creators and the fans. Fans are now becoming community members. And I know in the music space, if you were to get a call out from your favorite artist, you're a fan for life now. So it really brings that super fan to more of the mainstream. Edmond, do you want to add anything?
No, I just, what Jason says is so true. What we're doing at Eureka, one of the things that we've launched is ability for the fans to engage with the artists by investing in certain properties through NFTs and the token. Ultimately, the way I look at this is, how do we create community that is calm and interactive and trusting? So much of there are always going to be problems. We're always going to have issues with, theft and what have you. We'll deal with that. It's just, part of human nature. But building a great community builds great opportunity for people to honestly engage and fully engage with each other. So the important thing for us, from a technical aspect, is to provide the tools, as Jason was describing, provide the tools for people to engage. When we take a look at piracy, something that we're focused on, you can either call people out for doing it and go after them and try to chastise them, or you can look at them, in the music space at least, as super fans. They are those who are looking for an opportunity to engage, and they haven't found it. They haven't found in the current models that we have the opportunity to connect with their artist in a proper way that suits them, to engage in the business of the artist. So Web3 allows that opportunity now. I'm anxious to see what's going to happen as things are developed for this new paradigm. There's a lot of work to do, but those of us here and a lot of others around the world are doing their best to make sure that people can engage properly, and fully. So.
Exactly.
What I find interesting, I heard a story which really moved me just recently. There's a young man here in Geneva. He runs the guilds for a play to earn game called Axie NDA, and he's got a lot of players who are almost salaried, if you like, in the Philippines. And on the 16th of December, they had a huge tornado, and connectivity was down, obviously. And the players, like he told me the story, his players got together in the different islands and helped each other out because there were fellow players on that game. And I think that's great. That probably wouldn't have happened on the Web 2. And the other thing which I think is interesting is that, for example, on our platform, we can, some artists have decided to let the audience say how much they want to pay. So we're starting the auction not with the reserve price, but with whoever bids first, and then it keeps going. And I think one of the interesting innovations was done last year also by Damien Hirst, because he actually created 10,000 works of art, computer generated, and then he created one NFT for each one, and he's given the people the chance to, in 1 year's time, 365 days later, to say whether they want to keep the NFT or have the physical piece of art. And the idea is great because there is that involvement, and the actual buyer or collector or player in that case takes his fate in his own hands, which I think is something new as well, which is good.
Exactly. I see so many different scenarios and gamifying, and how we can really engage a community. Something that always is on my mind is how these Web 2 platforms, which I don't believe they're going to go away, how they can integrate Web 3. So, for example, Time Magazine are allowing you to pay for the subscriptions using crypto. And it's really a sense of identity verification where, it's a way for them to almost set up almost a Patreon using crypto, or just some kind of, access to this Web3 world. If the users choose to, I'm sure they can still have their fiat a subscription. So any thoughts, or is that kind of a good first introduction for traditional Web 2 platforms to onboard and introduce things to a Web 3 community?
I think for my observation, watching Nyla, and I think Jason, you've probably been on and Sixtine, you've probably been on Clubhouse when Nyla's been talking about some of her work early on. It's been fun listening to her grow. All of a sudden, here she is with Long Necky Ladies, with Time Magazine, and everything's connected, digitally and connected through blockchain. So my biggest concern is, how do we bring the youth in and allow them to understand the power of these new tools and understand how to change the world in a better way by developing community through the use of these tools. I love what Time Magazine's doing.
I would say that there's a couple interesting things here. I do agree that the youth are key. I also think that the youth are going to be far ahead of us in a lot of different ways. They're going to move more quickly and adopt more. I mean, this is something that we see in the gaming space, where people are very, very, very quick to adapt. I think one of the other big things that Web 2 companies need to think about when they look at the concept of transitioning to Web 3 is the difference between a Web 2 account, in which authentication happens essentially at the expense of you providing tons of data to the Web 2 company, to a Web 3 where it's a wallet sign-on. Okay. And you don't, as a Web 3 company, have access to any data whatsoever that they don't feel like giving you. And, you can have all of these different profiles that people can fill out that, allows you to, better serve them as customers, but it's a voluntary process rather than sort of a required built-in process. Because, with a Web 3 transaction, you don't even have a billing address. Right. So you've lost, name, you've lost billing addresses, you've lost the ability to do traditional customer segmentation the way that you would, prior to that. And I think that requires a little bit of a shift in mindset, where your primary function is to serve the people who are connecting to your platform rather than extract data from them. And it's a really big shift, because prior to this, it's one of those things that, Web 2, if you don't understand what the product the company is selling is, then you're the product, right? Like that's kind of an axiomatic truth. And that doesn't really fit in the Web 3 ethos or ecosystem at all. And I think that that's a big shift that companies need to make as they make that transition.
Yeah, I mean, that data is basically going to brands and advertising companies and serving you with, so for you signing up with a Time Magazine account, how many steps and how many other companies are going to get your data, which is, it's just too overwhelming.
Sure.
Anyone else on this topic?
Yeah, I think the use of artificial intelligence as well. There's a book that's come out called the Transhuman Code, which is exactly that. And it explains on all the, not just NFTs, but on agriculture and medical, et cetera, how we're at the, we created humans created all of this, and the artificial intelligence, we can we can still design it and direct it to where we want to go. And it's important that we take the right turns now, that we go in the right direction. And I think young people, they're a lot more aware about environmental issues, about, the climate change, about gender issues and all that. So I think for them, they're growing up with that. So that it'll be an automatic thing. But I was with the ID component, like you were saying, there's no more billing address or anything else. Well, I've signed up to the Sotheby's started an NFT platform recently, and so you go in and they give you an avatar and you can pick your name, and I'm Space Cookie, by the way, etc. And at the end of the day, I still like to pick up the phone and call my the person I know at Sotheby's and talk. So, and that's where Jason was saying it's important that there is that human touch behind it still, because I think we'll always need that. And we can live, the two worlds will be parallel, but we shouldn't let one take over the other. I think it's very important that there is humans behind everything.
I'm fascinated by the advances that Estonia has made in terms of they've got, high 90% of their government services on web, and they're using Web3 ideas, paradigms to allow people to protect themselves and still engage. I'm just, I'm still digging into it and finding out more about, everything they've done, but they've been at this since 1997, 98. So it's possible. We know that implementation of Web3 is possible. We can do it. It's not something that we have to struggle with. It's something that we can do quickly, I think.
Well, it is going very, very fast.
Yeah.
So, we need to keep up, but it's all, I feel like sometimes when I talk to people who are more knowledgeable than myself, is that they've been talking about it and thinking about it for years, and have just sort of come across as geeks. And now all of a sudden the ulcers burst, quote unquote, and it's, it's great. It's out there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we look at the name of this room, right? We will all become creators. And, I think in 3 to 5 years from now, where do we think creators are going to benefit from selling their digital assets? We've got one-of-ones, the, 10,000 of, I guess it started with like apes and stuff like that, has become a huge driver in the space. We have different price tiers. And if we think in 3 to 5 years, if you sign on through Instagram or TikTok with a Web3 wallet, and automatically whatever you create and post to the platform is now on a blockchain, it really depends on each creator wanting to do the work, if that's your full-time career to monetize, or you're just creating content for your for your friends and stuff like that. So I think eventually when these Web2 platforms, they will be able to live on the blockchain, content will automatically be there, and you have a choice to sell it or just, own it, right? So there's no more third party ownership. So, a couple questions. Where do you think 3 to 5 years we will be? Because this year, basically one, has been unbelievable and so much has happened. And then in 3 to 5 years, how do you think creators will benefit from, monetizing in this space? Jason.
Sure. I would say that for the first thing at a very fundamental level, the concept of creation is one of the things that fundamentally makes us human. Okay, we create in everything that we do. Okay, whether it's art or music or all of these things are fundamentally intertwined at a deep level, and they're one of the things that make us human. So I think at a level we are all creators. The question is not whether we'll become creators, but whether or not we will create the context with which those creations endure. And I think that that's what we're doing in this space. How do we share and spread those creations globally? You go back to some of the earliest, instances of human art, cave paintings and things like that. Those were creations that were created for a very small group of individuals, and only now are they being seen by the wider world. Whereas today, you can create something, you yeet that onto IPFS and the blockchain, and suddenly it is appearing instantly on computers all over the planet, and people are able to participate in that. So I think that in the next few years are going to be absolutely transformational, because once you have experienced the joy of creating something that will last by very definition, you're no longer going to be satisfied with sort of the old way of doing things. It's in gaming, it's the same thing. Once you've experienced the joy of actual ownership of in-game assets, you become instantly irritated the second that somebody tries to sell you something for nothing, or sell you nothing for something. Sorry, got that backwards there. But I think that the next few years are going to be like massively going to have an explosion of growth in every single creative way you can imagine. It's going to be so much fun. I can't wait.
Yeah.
I also think the pandemic, having been cooped up inside in confinement, global, like the whole world at one stage was at home. So those who were already working and as creators, like artists or musicians or whatever, dancers even, they just went there was so much innovation in the way to share their art, and that was made possible through the internet, obviously. That I think, and then that also encouraged a lot of other people, like TikTok at the beginning was basically just very much private people. Now it's getting more and more professional. You've got stand-up comedians, and I mean it's expanding already. But at the beginning, it was just, to me, it was just the video part of Instagram, and people posting their holidays or their boredom or whatever they were doing at home. But I think that helped a lot as well. But in the next 5 years, I think we're all going to be sitting in our virtual 3D living rooms, showing off our collections or playing games or doing something on our own 3D homes and wherever it may be.
The
I think that's
desire
going
of
to go
humans,
very fast.
the desire of humans to connect.
Mm-hmm.
It seems when you study archaeology, you find remnants of things that suggest that the people who created them wanted to reach much, much further out to others than their little microcosm, be it a mountain, a valley, whatever. They wanted to reach into places that they didn't know existed, but they thought might exist. And Web3 allows those who want to establish a footprint that's permanent and take even physical items and describe them to the rest of the world, to people they don't even know exist, people that don't exist even yet, will come later. But it's a wonderful opportunity to allow civilization as a whole, I think, to advance very, very quickly. One thing happens, people see this opportunity, jump on it, make it grow, and then the results of what they've done, I think, will create a flood of desire to create even more and share even more. It's going to be interesting. Yeah, I'm Jason. What you do in the gaming side is just, it fascinates me. How much will that fuel?
Oh, it's changing everything. It's changing so much. And very few really have an idea of what's coming right now. And I think it's going to be very, very interesting to watch develop. To kind of build on your point there, Edmond, one of the things that I find most fascinating is, and I am originally a student of history. That's kind of the direction that I approach everything from. And me ending up working in tech was because I realized that really nobody who is a history professor makes any money whatsoever. So if I want to do something that actually pays the bills, history is probably not going to be that thing. But what I find really fascinating is that you can graph the growth of culture by the velocity at which information is spread and the durability of that information. And you can look at early history before, sort of like a pre-written history, and how long it took anything to happen, and then you have the development of cuneiform and writing, and suddenly things start to pick up speed. It becomes possible to say, okay, look, this is what we learned about planting a crop here, and then passing it on to another city-state where they can learn it. Then you get the development of actual, printing presses and paper, and books suddenly begin to go everywhere. And then, now everything is digital. I think that this is the next phase in that evolution. We're able to pass more data to more people in a way that is easily consumed and critically owned. You know, you get to hold and own that piece of data, whatever it happens to be. Well, at the same time, everybody else gets to look at it. You know, so this is the beauty of the blockchain, right? So I think that this is going to drive the next sort of the next burst of you know, human mental and psychological evolution, and I think it's going to be absolutely fascinating. Sorry, that went super abstract, but
that was amazing. That was great.
Yeah.
You explained it really well.
Yeah.
You know, I look at communities as well, and who is in this space, and you know, musicians and gamers, I think, are very already kind of prone to interact with their community and fans. That's really how, you know, gamers operate, especially once they're able to game with other gamers through, you know, at the beginning, Xbox and PlayStation and stuff like that. Musicians are always very interactive with their fans, being at a live concert. You know, fine artists, I would think, and that's not my space, but they're almost a little behind the curtain and maybe in front of a smaller audience. So I think, you know, this has really elevated certain communities to a wider audience and made them become more available with the interaction of, you know, creator and fan. So I'm really, you know, happy that community and fans can now really engage a lot more than they could.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
I think from the artist or the art point of view, and I've heard an artist say that to me, it's that this is the biggest thing for the last 100 years. Nothing had moved in the art world, basically. But I think that the biggest thing that interests artists, other than it's a new medium, it's a new tool, they can explore with it, etc., and they can make unbelievable art, is that they get royalties now as well, because it's inscribed in the blockchain. So the secondary market encourages, or, you know, generates more revenue, which they've never had before. I mean, how many times have we heard the story of, you know, impressionist artists who died hungry? Modigliani was one of them, Van Gogh another, and now they're making hundreds of millions of dollars on sale and breaking records all the time. So that for the next, I mean, that's for the future, but I mean, it won't happen again.
Absolutely.
Which is, it's great.
Why shouldn't they profit from a resale?
Sure. It's interesting, you know, in the music space, we've been talking about that for years. There's always been an argument about how royalties are paid and who's hiding what. And, you know, we're looking at this as the opportunity to repair the business, if you will.
Yeah.
Reimagine it. But it seems to me, Sixtine, in light of what you just said, probably the biggest change, and also in light of, Jason, what you just described in terms of that artistic endeavor being so important to culture and humans growing as an organism, as a species, as a group, the most important moves will probably be made in the physical art world, the fine art world, do you think?
I think so. It's just exploded and everyone's embraced it. Like even the most traditional, you know, opaque and whatever institutions like Sotheby's or Christie's, but even Freeport's, everyone's doing NFTs. Everybody wants to be transparent. And another thing is that museums, I mean, it's known fact that what they exhibit is about 90% is in storage, and they only exhibit 10%. And if they're active, well, then they change their exhibitions. But now that's all changing. Everyone's digitalizing. Everyone's, you know, you can buy your exhibition and have it at home on your screen, and that's something completely new. And it's moving along so fast. That's why I'm saying the 3D, that'll be the next thing. It'll be just embraced just as quickly. That's what I think. I'm very excited. I can't wait.
No, it's definitely going to be a fascinating future. I think that, you know, specifically when you talk about you know, revenue for artists, you know, secondary market revenue, and the ability to, again, access that wider market. You know, if you're an impressionistic painter, you know, working in some village, you know, in the middle of Europe somewhere a couple hundred years ago, you know, you paint, and the people who see it are the people around you, or if you're working even in the center of Paris, the people who see it are the people who walk past your painting, which is a very, very small market, right? So opening these things up to a much larger, wider world, I think is making a huge difference. But in gaming and music as well, Edmond had mentioned, I believe, some of the concepts of the royalty payments and who's holding things back and who's hiding things. And how many times have you spoken to an artist or musician, and something has been sold by a gallery, right? And that gallery's, it's just a little bit slow to send the check. Yeah, the check is in the mail for sure. Definitely, it's in the mail. It's coming. It should be there any day now. And there's an artist living off of top ramen after having sold an amazing painting, and because they can't afford to eat. This is the sort of stuff that we see in these old style industries all the time. And one of the beautiful things about blockchain is that it completely, removes that as a, if properly designed, it completely removes that, because it makes it so, royalties are paid instantly.
Yeah.
One of your paintings sells, you open up your MetaMask and boom, there's your cut of that sale. And that's really, really, really powerful. And I think that it's going to continue to further redefine industries. And I think that if all of us working together, building this out, I think that there's so much change and so much positive influence that we can have on the world at large. And it's something I'm just delighted to be part of.
Yeah.
And I think industries are crossing now as well. For example, and this is at Sotheby's, when they started selling NFTs, they were saying people who normally buy traditional art got interested in the NFTs because it was the talk of the town and their friends were buying them and telling them to do so. But also people who were already, like you guys, involved for the last 20 years in the digital scene, etc., they started looking at traditional art. So, I mean, there is a crossover, which nobody was expecting before. When you went to an art fair, well, you only had art passionate people, or you'd go to a gaming meet or a convention somewhere. I happened to be in one of them once in New Jersey, and basically they were all gamers. They were all they were guitar heroes, but I mean, they were all there, and that's all there was. And now that's crossing over. Like, people are interested in what, in the other industries, which I think, and music is going to be involved in that for sure as well.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot.
Go ahead. I was going to say, it's interesting to me that in the gaming space, if you allow people to create, just anybody create anything they want, they may spawn something that starts a new movement. It's very, very possible. It's interesting to look at music in the game space. You have so many people that wanted to come in and write music for television, or do something for video, or do something for film. And suddenly you go into the game space and a composer can compose for 4 or 5 years, because there's so much material needed for that particular product. So using that as a basis of thought. I wonder how many creative things will be produced by those playing games. Who will start a new movement?
It's absolutely fascinating to watch this process take place live in real time in our community Discord. Because one of the challenges that you face with the concept of user-created content, specifically in gaming, is that generally speaking, most users aren't really game developers. But there's a tremendous amount of passion and energy. And what is really cool to watch is when you have our, professional game developers and artists and modelers and all of that, who work side by side with the community to have the community influence what they want to see in a game. And in some cases, it is directly counter to what the quote unquote best practices might be, but it's this amazing, cool process where they all work together to make some of these changes. I absolutely love watching it. But yeah, it's very, very, very neat to watch.
Yeah. it's like almost appropriation from the audience, which is something. And I have a little anecdote. I have a friend who's a photographer, and he did an exhibition in a church in Paris, and the church is linked to a mental institution, so the patients could go and see these photographs, and they were big, so expensive to produce. And on the last day, some sponsor had bought the whole collection. There was 12 of them, and on the last day, they told one group of mentally ill patients that, you know, the exhibition was going to be closed tomorrow, so if they wanted to go and see it, they should go now. And one guy went and just completely vandalized everything and wrote a whole lot of things with marker on the photographs. And my friend, the photographer, was devastated, because not so much because of the, you know, you can always reproduce, but he said, I don't have the money. I've sold these things and I don't have the money to reproduce them. And the collector was great, because it was a woman, and she said, that's part of the work. It evolved, and there's this is why I'm telling the story. There was an interaction from an outsider, which I accept, which I want them. I don't want you to you know, make new ones. And that's what happens as well in this digital world. There's people, you know, like it's the same thing with I think it was Gucci or Prada, I can't remember, one of the bags sold on an NFT more money than the real leather bag in the shop. And that's the audience doing that. And I think that's great, because they get a voice.
Exactly. I think every physical object will have a digital verification, and you know, collaborators can now experience the as you were saying, the royalty, but as well as being you know, part of that creation. A musician that partners with an artist, both are going to get credit, both are going to be in the forefront, versus the main focus is on the musician. The artist doesn't really get that shine, but I think it's a definite way for everyone to experience. And, you know, I think community members can now help advocate their favorite creators with incentives, right? With, you know, community tokens and the utilities and the rewards. So I think it's almost like the old school street teams, where people go out and trying to sign up more people because of certain incentives. So I really see that happening with you know, community tokens. So I just want to see what's on deck for you guys. Anything that you're launching that you might be able to talk about. And you know, I think Jason may have to drop off soon, so I'll throw this to Jason and let the audience know what's coming up for you.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Andrew. Yes, there is a lot coming with Gala Games. There's going to be a lot in the gaming space, as well as a few other adjacent areas that you're going to start seeing a lot more out of us pretty soon. We've got an amazing slate of AAA games that are going to be coming out here before too terribly long. We've taken the focus from blockchain gaming and made it gaming with blockchain, which is, you know, doesn't seem like a very big distinction, but it really is, to kind of go with a game first mentality, because it really changes the way that you develop. It means that you focus on making amazing games before you focus on, you know, creating a blockchain tech demo sort of thing. So game first. So we've got a lot of stuff. We recently partnered with Ember Entertainment and AMC, and we're working on the Walking Dead Empires, which is going to be very cool. And we've got a couple other announcements, I think some of which will actually have been announced when this panel goes live. So I think that there's a whole lot coming up that everyone is going to be delighted to see.
And if people wanted to engage, go to your Discord, or
if people would like to engage, the absolute best way is to join our Discord at galagames.chat. We've got about 170,000 people in there right now, who are all very passionate about what's going on. And if you drop in there, you will be able to interface with the team and a very passionate community instantly. You can also look up our website at gala.games, and you can follow us at GoGalaGames on just about any social media platform. And then I'm also at BitbenderBrink on Twitter. And I do answer DMs. So if you have any questions, just hit me up. I'm happy to chat with you guys. But thank you very much for having me on this panel. It was an absolute pleasure. I am going to drop off, and you guys have a wonderful day, and I will catch up with you all in the very near future.
See you in the metaverse.
See ya. Peace out, guys.
16, you want to give people a glimpse on what's coming up for you?
Yeah, so wise.art, the auction part of the platform will open on February 14th, Valentine's Day. And it's right now, it's already, we're on board artists, but people can buy can already buy NFTs on the fixed sale. WiseKey has launched its first 2 satellites last week, but we plan to launch 80 satellites together with SpaceX out of Florida over the next year. So we'll have 80 satellites out there in our little satellite chains, and we'll be creating NFTs from space. So that's quite exciting. I think it's a first. And other than that, as of February 14th, so we will be live when this comes through. And yeah, everyone's welcome. Come and have a look and buy some fine art.
Amazing. And if they wanted to get hold of you or, engage?
Absolutely. So on Discord, it's wise.art, or myself, I've got 16 spelled Sixtine server. And then we're on every social media as well, always as wise.art on Facebook, Twitter. LinkedIn is a good one too. We still use LinkedIn a lot because we've got the whole security tech side, which tend to use LinkedIn. And then we have our website, which is www.wisekey.com.
I think that LinkedIn is an extremely powerful networking platform, and I can't wait to see how they integrate Web 3, because they're definitely a heavy hitter in this space. Edmond.
So at Eureka, we're also focused, and our main focus is security. I mean, that's what we do, securing items for the artists, anybody creating. But one of the things philosophically, I mean, I'll say there are 2 things philosophically that are different that we're really working at. One is bringing up emerging artists. So musicians will do the same thing with visual artists, folks that don't have the opportunity to get past that velvet rope that still exists. Certainly what we're doing to move to Web3 is going to get rid of that, but we want to make sure that people understand those opportunities. And one of the big focuses for us is in the music space. By the time this goes live, we will have already done the NFT 100s, where we're allowing people in the fan base to come in and invest in artists. So we have new artists. We're saying, okay, it's great. We can go and get people who are well known, but what about folks who are really trying, really putting their heart out, really doing their best? So we're bringing them in and allowing fans to make that decision with them. It's really exciting. It's a warming experience, let's put it that way, to see community build in this manner. And we're beginning to talk to governments about how they do things differently in their IP protection. So we've gone after some patents. We've got some provisional patents. We're working hard with that. We've developed a good product around that. And now we're beginning those conversations. Because I would really, and those I'm working with would really like to see artists of every type. In fact, let's not say artists, say creators of every type, be really comfortable in their space and not worry about this. It doesn't matter if it's music or writing or fine art or architecture, whatever it is. So we're working hard in those spaces to make sure that those products are put out there and they're live and folks can access them. And
I think it's up to us to provide those tools so creators can just focus on being a creator. And yes, it's amazing that some are developing their own smart contracts, their own social media, their marketing, but that's a lot of work, and it does take away from being a creating your art. So
it does. If people go in, when they have the opportunity, they go to eureka.io, and then they'll find our music publishing business. They'll find our copyright business, and that's going toward government, but allowing people right now to use blockchain to hash their work, IPFS and Gemini, whatever they can, whatever other platforms we allow for that information to be put out on. So
great.
And I'll just
there's an interesting book, Edmond, you might want to find. It's WIPO brought it out, yeah, World Intellectual Property Organization in Geneva, and it's the Code of Ethics. And it's just so basic when you read it. It's 85 pages or so. Yeah. But it's a forgotten thing. I mean, there is a code of ethics, and it's really nice to remind ourselves one. And I think in this new digital world, the code of ethics is going to be very, very important.
True. No, I've got a digital copy of that. That is actually, it's on my desktop here. That you're so right. That is so important. It's so important.
Excellent. Well, I'll just, you know, at Yellow Heart, we're really focusing on ticketing for musicians and entertainment industry, working with artists and venues, so conferences as well. So, you know, we're going to be looking for more of those partnerships. Yellow Heart launched an app a couple months ago, so that's really crucial for ticketing, especially in the live space, being able to use the app for, you know, potentially upgrade your seat and to interact with other real life utilities, or through the app, as well as owning, you know, digital ownership of your ticket and an NFT. So Yellow Heart has some incredible things coming up this year, you know, and they're built on Ethereum, they mint on Polygon. So it's
I have a question for you. How did in the live concert scene, how did the pandemic affect you, and did Yellow Heart investigate in digital concert hologram interventions and that sort of thing?
Well, I only just got on board, but right before the pandemic, they were about to go hard in the live venue space. When the pandemic hit, they focused on traditional NFT drops. So they were actually the first platform to drop a rock band, Kings of Leon. So that was back in, I believe, March or April of last year. And, you know, they were the first platform for dropping a rock band NFT. They actually, Kings of Leon were involved in the inspiration for SpaceX launch, where the NFT was opened up in space during that launch. So theoretically, that's the NFT was opened, or, you know, minted, you know, in
so you were the first ones. We're not going to be the first ones.
It depends how you you know, verb it, so possibly. But I'm excited for the future and, you know, for this space, and it's been really great talking to both of you, and I hope the audience finds this really interesting, and I can't wait to see what other panels that this conference has. So I think that is our time, unless you have any closing words. I think
thank you.
Amazing to meet you guys and have this conversation, and let's please do stay in touch. We can do a lot.
Absolutely. We'd be more than happy to, Edmond and Andrew, and we'll get in touch with Jason. Thank you very much.